Hello everyone and welcome back to this channel. My name is Zubair Charles. I am an English home language teacher. I've been teaching for the past 6 years now. I also have experience in marking poetry at the NSCU Marking Center for English Home Language Paper 2, and I hope with that short experience I am able to provide you with the necessary skills to tackle your English Home Language Paper 2 poetry section A of your exam more effectively after watching these videos. My goal is to share the skills that I've learned through my teaching with all the grade 12 learners out there across South Africa who are engaging with this channel, right? And as well, if there are any teachers out there watching, I welcome you to this channel as well. And I hope that you can perhaps implement some of the methodologies and approaches that I'm doing in this lesson within your own classroom. I've presently completed my master's in creative writing. I write short stories, non-fiction essays, poetry, plays. You can check out some of my work in the description box below. Please have a look, check the links, check it out. And my second play, Mercy, will be showcased Friday, June 30th to Monday, July 3rd at Theatre Arts in Observatory here in Cape Town. You can also check that link out if you'd like to buy tickets and you want to come support my show. So let's begin with the lesson. But before we do, I like to begin all my lessons in classrooms with obviously an introduction, but with probing questions. So any lesson, right? When learners step into the lesson, when you step into the lesson of your respective subjects, right? Always intertwine your prior knowledge with the content knowledge that you are going to do in a specific lesson. So I'm going to ask a few probing questions, can incite your knowledge, and try to link what you already know with what we're going to learn today. So first things first, look at the picture and think to yourself, what do trees symbolize? Excuse me. So if you are at home and you're watching this, perhaps you want to pause this video, chat to somebody, maybe have a discussion with anyone at home, or you want to maybe answer in the comment section below, right? What do trees symbolize? What is the deeper meaning of trees? What is the figurative or metaphoric meaning behind a tree? What do you think? Right? There's no right or wrong answer, so think about it. Secondly, why does politics become a contentious and difficult conversational topic, especially in South Africa? Think about that based on the past and perhaps even in today's society, right? In a present democratic society, right? Why is politics such a tricky or it can become such a heated conversational topic? Think about that. Think about our history. Why is that? Right? And as always, I said, perhaps talk to somebody at home. Okay, next question. What is a better way to resolve an issue? Should you talk through an issue or should you use violence as an approach? Now, before we immediately jump to talking, when I'm referring to issues, I'm referring to oppression in a country or maybe systemic inequalities that affects or plagues a country, right? Do you think that you should have a more reserved approach and talk and converse and try to move forward from whatever issue that country is facing, right? Or should you perhaps have a more radical or extreme approach, right? And use violence to get, I don't want to say to get what you want, but to move forward, right? To kind of get the attention of those who need it, right? So think about that. I think that's a nice topic that can be debated in a classroom. And the last question before we begin our actual poem, was it easy for South Africans to come together and end apartheid? Think about that. Okay, maybe you might not be able to answer. I might not either. I am also born free, right? Born a few months after the end of apartheid. So think about that. I don't think you can answer this question. Maybe not. Maybe you can, right? Those of you who do history. But I think this is a nice way to start a conversation at home, right? With your parents or maybe with grandparents, right? Think about that. Okay, and that brings us to our poem for today, which is Talk to the Peach Tree by Sipho Sipamla. let's jump right in immediately to the poem. Right, so I'm going to do a reading quickly for you guys. Talk to the Peach Tree by Sipho Sipamla. Let's talk to the swallows visiting us in summer. Ask how it is in other countries. Let's talk to the afternoon shadow. Ask how the day has been so far. Let's raise our pets to our level. Ask them what they don't know of us. Words have lost meaning. Like all notations, they've been misused. Most people will admit a whining woman can overstate her case. Talk to the paralyzing heat in the air. Inquire how long the mercilessness will last. Let's pick out the items from the rubbish heap. Ask how the stench is like down there. Let's talk to the peach tree. Find out how it feels to be in the ground. Let's talk to the moon going down. Ask if it isn't enough eyeing what's been going on. Come on, let's talk to the devil himself. It's about time. So, okay, let's look at some context, background information in regard to this poem. Okay, why, as I said, why is politics such a contentious and debated topic, especially in South Africa? Right? So, as apartheid was coming to an end in the early 1990s, negotiations occurred between various political parties, right? Specifically the NP and the ANC. So, as we know, change cannot happen overnight. Therefore, a negotiated revolution occurred at the end of apartheid due to the discussions that created change instead of violence. Right? And in this poem, the speaker refers to absurd instructions and suggestions that can occur to bring about change in pre democratic South Africa. Right? Instead of using violence, as I said, to bring about change. So again, perhaps you want to pause this section of the video and read over what on your own what's going on here in regard to context, right? And then maybe rewind and listen again to what I've just said. Okay, so let's look at a summary of the actual poem. The poem Talk to a Peach Tree is a witty poem that makes subtle yet vital instructions and suggestions about how to end the system of apartheid. Remember, during the apartheid era, artists and writers were censored and could not openly criticize the apartheid government. So think about this: if you were, let's say, a musician or you were a poet or you were any sort of writer, it's not like you could openly write about the injustices of apartheid, right? You would obviously be censored. Maybe there would also be some sort of dire consequence, right? If you were to openly criticize the apartheid government or write or create art, right? So think about that, right? So in this poem, you're going to see that the speaker uses, here it says witty, right? But also absurd and these weird instructions that the people of South Africa need to do, right? And why is that done? Because remember, the speaker cannot openly say, listen here, South Africans, in order to end apartheid, we need to all do this, that, and the other, right? You have to think of a clever way in order to play around with words, okay? And that comes into the next sentence here with the use of diction, imagery, and poetic devices. The speaker uses clever ways to address and discuss politics. Right? Okay, so throughout the poem, the speaker encourages the oppressed individuals living in the then apartheid ruled South Africa to complete various tasks, specifically talk to inanimate objects. Now, again, remember, it's absurd, it's silly, it's witty, it's weird, it doesn't make sense. Why would you want to talk to an object that cannot talk back to you in regard to politics, right? So it doesn't make sense, right? But as I said, when once we go through the poem together, you are going to understand. Okay, so remember the government placed various restrictions on people of color. Therefore, the speaker couldn't or could not openly speak about or speak against the government. Sorry, there's a mistake there. Right? Ultimately, the speaker suggests that communication is the key to resolving the issues people of color are facing. Remember, this is now referring to as if it's happening now, like the speaker is stating, right? So 28 years later, or over 30 years later, um, We speak as if this poem is happening now. Okay, so I'm just going to read that last part again. Ultimately, the speaker suggests that communication is the key to resolving the issues people of color are facing, I mean, racism or oppression in apartheid, as well as a possible way to end apartheid rather than using violence. Okay, so let's use communication rather than violence. And remember, these are the ideas of the speaker. Right? So just keep that at the back of the mind if you don't perhaps agree or if you maybe have a more radical approach. Okay, so title Talk to the Peach Tree. Again, what does a peach tree symbolize? Okay, oh, it's kind of weird, eh? Why would you want to talk to a peach tree in regard to politics, right? Okay, let's see. Okay, so title what what is the deeper meaning of a peach tree? What would it mean? Okay, so firstly, a peach tree symbolizes strength and being grounded. All trees have roots, and any tree needs to be in a healthy environment to thrive, grow, and bear fruit. The title suggests that the oppressed people of South Africa need to be strong, grounded, and work together with all South Africans to create a new democratic country. They do not live in a healthy environment that allows them to thrive and grow. So, in order to move the country forward, grow and thrive, they should not be shaken or uprooted, meaning all South Africans need to be grounded and stick together to create a better land, just as a peach tree is fixed in the ground. Okay? Maybe I should just go back quickly and you can look at that photo. So check out that the peach tree is standing there nice and strongly and firmly in the ground. Okay. Next one. What else can the title refer to? Talk to a peach tree. Why must we talk to a peach tree? It's because a peach tree refers to renewal and rejuvenation. So, a peach tree produces vibrant fruits, and this symbolizes renewal, rejuvenation, and the cycle of nature. Just as the tree blooms and bears fruit each year, the speaker wants the oppressed to understand that apartheid will not last, that Africa will be renewed, and this will happen through effective communication and not violence. Hence why it says, talk to the peach tree in the title. Okay, so there's a nice picture for you guys. Peach tree being rooted and strong, and renewal and rejuvenation. Okay, so line 1 to 2. Let's talk to the swallows visiting us in summer. Ask how it is in other countries. So let's. This will be repeated through the poem. Right, anaphora. So, not only is the speaker addressing South Africans, look at the word let's, right? So, let us talk to the swallows. So, it's not only is he talking to the South Africans at the time who were living during the apartheid era or under the apartheid system, he's also including the reader. So, he's saying, let us, not let's. So, you as the reader reading this poem, studying this poem, you are brought into the conversation. Right? Swallows. Now, why should we talk to swallows? We can't talk to birds. Birds are not going to talk back. So remember, there's a reason for that. So swallows would have a deeper meaning in this context. But before we get to that, we know that swallows are birds that travel um, from a long distance. They're migrant birds, right? Found almost worldwide, right? But if you think about it, sorry for the long pause. Swallows that travel to South Africa, right? What would that mean? So the swallows would be traveling, let's say, for example, from Europe during winter, right? So they're going to go through Western France, um, through Eastern Spain into Morocco before crossing the Sahara Desert and the Congo rainforest. Finally, at the end, in summer, they will reach South Africa and Namibia, right? So we know that swallows travel, of course, they migrate in winter, right? And why would, again, why ask yourself, why would we need to talk to swallows, right? So, because they migrate for summer, they could be possibly, or they could possibly be a good source of communication as they deliver information, right? So they fly around, they can deliver information, right? In this context, the swallows refer to people who are visiting South Africa. Check the picture out there, right? The speaker suggests that the oppressed people of South Africa engage in conversation with the swallows, and this symbolizes the need to connect with those who come from different places or have different experiences. This can be seen as a metaphor for reaching out to people from other nations to gain support and solidarity in the fight against apartheid. Also, we have some nice alliteration there. Swallows, summer, right? It's a repetition of the S sound, which is a soft sound. S for swallows, S for summer, right? And the repetition of the soft S sound emphasizes openness and calmness, right? A calm attitude, right? So it's a nice conversation you need to have. It's not an aggressive conversation. You need to talk softly and nicely to the swallows, right? And that's kind of the reference to the effectiveness of the alliteration in that lines. Okay, so the speaker uses some nice strong verbs here with talk, right? Talk emphasizes the importance of communication and the exchange of ideas, right? Perhaps previous conversations that the people of South Africa had were not fruitful, right? Because maybe they didn't talk effectively. And then we also have the word ask, right? So ask people how it is in other countries, right? And get their experiences, gain their approaches, right? What did they do when their country was facing oppression or whatever, right? And maybe ultimately the speaker could also be saying that as you are talking, you are gaining maybe sort of international awareness around, not around, against the struggle of apartheid. Okay, let's talk to the afternoon shadow. So, what does that mean? The speaker proposes conversing with the afternoon shadow, and this symbolizes the need to understand the passing of time and the experiences of each day. Right? So, talk to the shadow. How would you talk to a shadow? Right? So, in this context, right, talking to a shadow, the passing of time can represent acknowledging the history and events of oppression and discrimination. So, when we talk to the shadow, we're actually gaining information on how time had passed, right? So, it's afternoon, time has moved, it's a shadow, right? We see the shadow. So, we are talking to the past basically, right? And we're gaining information on the history of South Africa basically. Okay, and the image of an afternoon shadow conveys the passing of time. It's a time for reflection. Let's think about what has happened already, right? And it's in jumping here, so we're going to flow into the next line and ask how the day has been so far. So, why would we ask how the day has been so far, right? So, of course, there's a deeper meaning in regard to asking how the day has been so far. But again, this is another silly and absurd. Sorry if I'm going to make a noise. I just need to connect my charger. Right. So, again, ask how the day has been so far. Another absurd and silly instruction. So, surely life during the apartheid era was not easy. So, the answer is self explanatory here. Asking the oppressed people how their day has been so far. So, remember, we said in the previous line that we are talking to the afternoon shadow, right? And here we're going to ask how the day has been so far. So, afternoon shadow would refer to, remember we said, all the past experiences, right? So, now we need to ask, okay, so how has the day been so far? So, we know that any day during the apartheid era was, of course, not that good, right? It wasn't a nice time to be living in, right? Especially if you're a person of color, right? So, if you ask how's your day been so far, you're not going to get a great answer, right? So, why should South Africans complete this request, right? The speaker suggests inquiring about the events and experiences of the day, indicating the need to understand the ongoing struggles and the challenges faced by the oppressed individuals, right? Reflect on the state of affairs in the community or in the country. What is happening now? So we're looking at the past, right? And we're also looking at the present. And then lines 5 to 6. Raise our pets to our level. Ask them what they don't know of us. So, pets, this is now again now, let's raise our pets. That's also now a weird or silly or absurd instruction to give. Right? Why would you talk to your pets? Okay, so let's find out what the deeper meaning is here. Pets are domesticated creatures that bring comfort or companionship. Right? In this context, is referred to the pets refer to young people who might have radical ideas. The speaker asks that they should be included and listened to. Right? Ask them what they don't know of us. Right? So the speaker proposes asking our pets about what they may not understand about the experiences of the present freedom fighters, right? Highlighting the need for others to listen and learn about the struggles faced by the oppressor. So the speaker's kind of also saying here that don't exclude young people from the conversation, right? In regard to how we're going to end apartheid. Let's get some new ideas, fresh ideas, right? So it's kind of an exchange here, right? Think of any conversation, an effective conversation should be an exchange of ideas, right? So we're raising the pets, raising the next generation to acknowledge what has happened in the past, but also for them to give their ideas. Okay, we're not excluding them. Okay, and explain, and lastly, explain the background, perspective, history that they may not know or understand. Okay, so we've just gone over grade 12's lines 1 to 6, right? And if you look at the structure, I've made some nice annotations there for you. So line 1 to 6, remember there's a repetition of let's, right? So there the speaker is directly addressing South Africans or directly addressing the reader, right? But now, if you look at lines 7 to 10, there's a bit of a space here. I'm just going to make us there. See the XX? So there's a space next to 7, 8, space next to 9, 10. That we call an indent, right? So there's a bit of a space away from the margin. So remember, 1 to 6, normal structure, right? Nice margin there. 11 to 18, normal, right? 7 to 10, indent. 19 to 21, indent, space, right? So when you see this indent, it's space. It's like, okay, let's move away, right? You see the space there? Now you're moving away from the conversation, right? And the speaker is now giving now their political commentary, right? The speaker is now saying, okay, I've included you now in the conversation. Let's take a step back. Let me just comment on what's currently happening in South Africa, right? I hope that I hope that you understand that. It will make more sense when we get to structure at the end of the poem. But let's see now. We're going to look at lines 7 to 10. We're stepping away from the conversation, right? And now the speaker is going to tell us something quickly. So, lines 1 to 6 summary. Previously, in lines 1 to 6, the speaker reveals absurd and silly instructions that the oppressed people living under the apartheid rule South Africa need to follow. Although these instructions may not make sense at first, the speaker does this deliberately to encourage communication between all South Africans. Remember, as the NP and the ANC were beginning negotiations to move South Africa into a democratic state, people of different races and South Africa in its entirety were not used to communication and togetherness. Okay, so that is why you get those weird and silly instructions. It's like, okay, we're not used to talking to people of different races or the country as a whole. So, okay, let's talk rather to the swallows and let's do all these silly things. Let's talk to the afternoon shadow instead. Right? So it's kind of weird instructions. Okay, people are still getting used to these conversations and negotiations and talking to people of different races, communicating, and all of those things. Okay, now, as I said, line 7 to 10, we're moving away from that conversation. And in the following lines, right, 7 to 10, the speaker reveals um, why. Now, just take a pause on why. If we're going to look now at political commentary, maybe why is it so difficult for people to have these conversations? Why is the speaker initially making these weird and silly instructions, right? So, lines 7 to 10. Why is the structure different? Okay. Why does the speaker use indentation? Right? In these next lines, the speaker will make specific commentary on the apartheid government. instead of talking directly to the reader as they did in lines 1 to 6, as I just explained. So, again, right, look here. Let's 1 to 6, talking to the reader. Here, 11 to 18, which we'll get into in a moment's time. Once again, talking to the reader, but now 7 to 8 and 19 to 21, political commentary. Right? The speaker is going to talk directly to us now. So, words have lost meaning, like all notations, they've been misused. So why is it weird? It's difficult for people to communicate with each other because apartheid had caused words to lose their meaning, like all notations have been misused. Check the picture there and let's start to make sense of what's going on. The speaker acknowledges that words have lost the impact and significance due to censorship, right? Or censorship or propaganda and the political climate of South Africa at the time. Many words had lost their true meaning. Right? Notations, this refers to representations, codes, symbols, words, phrases. Right? Notations, any form of communication. Right? So the speaker comments on the misuse and manipulations of words and symbols in the context of apartheid. This could refer to the manipulation of language, right? Remember, apartheid government is gonna use language, right? Use propaganda to kind of confuse people, right? Um, and they're doing this to maintain an oppressive system in the news, media, or form, right? So they're controlling language in the country as a whole. Okay. The speaker states, most people would admit a whining woman can overstate her case. What does that mean? The speaker acknowledges a commonly held belief, not or observation we all know about complaining. Right? So, but then he also says that a woman is complaining, but now, obviously, it's not just one woman. This is a synecdoche here, right? We're using one small thing to represent a whole, right? So, obviously, this woman is representing all women that might have made a complaint in South Africa or in regard to apartheid and the unfair and unjust system and rules, right? So, excuse me, the speaker reveals how a woman that is complaining can exaggerate her grievances or arguments. So think about this in any complaint that we have, right? Do we often, especially if it's a complaint that we've made numerous times, right? By maybe the fifth or the sixth or the 10th time that we've made that complaint, we're gonna kind of exaggerate or kind of um, not I don't say highlight, but we kind of gonna make it seem more dire than what it already is, of course, because we are fed up, right? So here the speaker saying a whining woman can overstate a case. And what does that mean? So I'm just gonna go here to this last paragraph. The speaker reveals how a woman that is complaining can exaggerate her grievances or arguments. This may suggest the need for calculate and rational communication to address apartheid. So the speaker is saying now, when we, what the speaker is saying is making an observation. He's saying that, when people are complaining, they kind of misconstrue their words. They don't effectively communicate, right? Because they're becoming obviously passionate about what they are arguing or what they are grieving or the grievances that they're making, but he says, okay, stop, pause, think about what you are going to say. Don't whine or don't complain. That's not going to amount to anything, right? So he's saying that people should not be driven by emotions or grievances, right? When we communicate effectively and we bring out the guns and when we present the argument, we're looking at facts and we're not complaining. We're going to communicate effectively, right? So in his observation, he's also revealing something to us. Okay, so when people complain about the same thing in the same way, they are often ignored. So obviously, these women are frustrated. Then whining women, right? Alliteration of the hard W sound now, and this reinforces the idea of the unpleasant sound. Whining women, that hard W sound, and in that we get the idea of somebody that's constantly whining. It's an irritating noise. It's a hard noise. It's not easy on the ear. Okay, line 10. Now um, back to the speaker talking to us, right? Or including us in the conversation, we're talking directly to the reader. Talk to the paralyzing heat in the air. Right? The speaker suggests engaging in conversation with unbearable heat. And what is the unbearable heat here? This symbolizes the need to address the brutal and relentless nature of apartheid. It calls for dialogue to question and challenge the oppressive regime. Right? So remember, the speaker can't say, let's talk to the police and call them out on their brutality. No. Right? He's saying, talk to the paralyzing heat in the air. Right? So that's done deliberately. You can't criticize the apartheid government. Okay? Paralyzing heat, extreme heat that hinders you from doing anything. This is being linked to the government who had laws that were restrictive with harsh penalties if they were broken. Go check the picture there. Inquire how long the mercilessness will last. What does that mean? The speaker urges questioning the duration and persistence of mercilessness of apartheid. Right? Merciless. What does that mean? Emphasizes the effect of apartheid. Right? If you are merciless, right? Or what does mercilessness mean? Right? No empathy, no mercy, no compassion for the oppressed people. Right? So inquire how long this will be. Right? How long this lack of compassion and lack of mercy and lack of empathy for people of color will last. Right? And this is symbolic of the position that people of color were in during apartheid. They were prisoners of the harsh and unforgiving situation. Right? They were often given no mercy. Right? So let's pick out items from the rubbish heap. Ask how the stench is like down there. Okay. The speaker suggests examining items from a rubbish heap, and this refers to the need to confront and understand the unpleasant and discarded aspects of the then South African uh, society. Okay. Specifically, the injustices and inequalities. Right? Look at the picture there. Right? And rubbish heap, stench. What's going on here? So economic oppression has resulted in people being forced to live in inhumane conditions, and there seems to be uh, no way to break out of the stench of the rotten system. Okay, let's continue this analysis. What is the foul smell emanating from the rubbish heap? This means to confront and address the unpleasant realities of apartheid and its consequences. The words rubbish heap, stench, and down there relate to the way black people were regarded by the authorities. Rubbish rubbish that was to be thrown away, something created a bad smell or stench. Right? The speaker is serious, and the intention is to describe the reality and situation that black people or people of color had to endure during the apartheid era. Now, I want us just to look at the title again before we go to the next few lines. Talk to the peach tree. What does the peach tree symbolize? Check the picture, and I'm going to go over it again. Right? A peach tree symbolizes being rooted and strong. Right? So a peach tree symbolizes strength and being grounded. All trees have roots, and any tree needs to be in a healthy environment to thrive, grow, and bear fruit. The title suggests that the oppressed people of South Africa need to be strong, grounded, and work together with all South Africans to create a new democratic country. They do not live in a healthy environment that allows them to thrive and grow. So, in order to move the country forward, grow, and thrive, they should not be shaken or uprooted, meaning all South Africans need to be grounded and stick together to create a better land, just as a peach tree is fixed in the ground. Renewal and rejuvenation. So a peach tree also symbolizes, right, renewal and rejuvenation. So a peach tree produces vibrant fruits, and this symbolizes renewal, rejuvenation, and the cycle of nature. Just as the tree blooms and bears fruit each year, the speaker wants the oppressed to understand that apartheid will not last, that Africa will be renewed, and this will happen through effective communication and not violence. Pictures, once again, being rooted and strong, renewal and rejuvenation. So, let's Let's go to line 50 now. Let's talk to the peach tree. Check that nice picture there, guys. The speaker suggests engaging in conversation with the peach tree. Why? Did South Africans live in a land where they could grow and thrive like a peach tree can? Did the country bear fruits like a peach tree? Were South Africans strong, rooted, and together? Think about that. Maybe pause this video and reread those questions again for yourself before we look at lines 15 and 16. So, check the bottom there of the tree. Let's talk to the peach tree. Find out how it feels to be in the ground. Check those roots in the ground there. Remember, due to apartheid, people of color had limited prospects in all aspects of their lives. A peach tree is stable and able to thrive and bear fruits. So, the speaker now suggests that oppressed South Africans talk to the peach tree because it is rooted in a permanent place in the garden, unlike other items the speaker previously listed and proposed with which to have a conversation. So, remember, due to apartheid, people of color had limited prospects in all aspects of their lives. Right? A peach tree, however, is stable and can thrive in soil or land and bear fruits. Right? I'm going to read that again. Just think about this. Remember, due to apartheid, people of color had limited prospects in all aspects of their lives. But a peach tree is stable and can thrive in soil or land and bear fruit. So, what does that mean? The speaker now suggests that the oppressed South Africans living during the apartheid era talk to the peach tree because a peach tree is rooted in a permanent place, unlike other items that the speaker previously listed. Remember, the other items were kind of items that could move around, right? The swallows and the shadows and all of that. But now we get the idea of talk to this peach tree that is fixed in the ground, right? Ask how it feels to be in the ground, right? So, I'm going to read this again. The speaker now suggests that oppressed South Africans talk to the peach tree because it is rooted in a permanent place, unlike other items the speaker previously listed and proposed with which South Africans should have a conversation, as I explained now. Look at lines 1 to 6, and then I believe it's 11 to 14. Look at those instructions and things that the speaker said that we must talk to. But now, talking to a peach tree, which is now a different thing. Right? So, the peach tree will tell South Africans how it has become this prosperous being rooted in the ground. Right? Means the tree is permanent and not shaken. You can't take a tree and then move it, right? Very easily, especially a peach tree, right? It is fruitful, productive, and successful. The peach tree can grow in land it belongs to, unlike the people of color. Alright? The people of color did not have land. Right? They had no sense of belonging, right? Or they have no sense of belonging, right? Remember present tense. Right? Hence why oppressed people need to find out and talk to the peach tree, right? What is the peach tree's secrets? How can they also be fixed? And how can they thrive? And how can they bear fruits? Right? Let's talk to the moon going down. Check the picture there. Moon going down. Now that's a nice image there, right? When the moon goes down, the sun must come up. And when the sun comes up, that refers to a brand new day. But here, the speaker doesn't say, let's talk to the sun rising, the sun coming up. Now we must talk to the moon as the moon goes down. Right? Now, it's kind of referring to that same cycle of a day ending, right? Moon going down and sun coming up is one and the same, but there's obviously a distinct difference here. So why does the speaker say that? Right? So South Africans, right, are still in darkness. Nothing has changed yet. Right? So they're kind of still in nighttime. They're still in darkness. So even though the sun is coming up, the moon is going down. So that is why it refers to moon. And think about moonlight. Right? Even though the moon is shining kind of outside, can we see clearly at nighttime? Not really, right? Is the moon's light bright enough? Right? Things cannot clearly be identified at nighttime. There is a bit of light, yes, we know that, right? Meaning that there is hope for a new dawn. So yes, there's a little bit of light, there's a little bit of hope, right? Yes, we can move forward as a country, right? And the sun will rise on a new dawn for South Africa. Now let's join line 17 to 18 now that you know what line 17 means. So let's talk to the moon going down. Ask if it isn't enough. Eyeing what's been going on. Sorry. So check the picture there. That's a nice picture. So the speaker suggests conversing with the moon as it is seen, and this refers to the need to observe and understand the events and injustices happening during the nighttime. Remember, one cannot see clearly at night. Perhaps the moon can reveal hidden um, injustice of apartheid. Sorry, there's a mistake. They're not reveal, it's reveal. Eyeing. Look at something with interest yet without acting on it. So when you eye something, you're like, okay, I see that there, but I'm not gonna take it now or buy it now, or whatever. That's just a random example. Okay. So the moon is personified here. Right? It is aware of the situation. Right? Is it aware that it's eyeing? Right? Does the moon know what's going on? Here, the moon could also represent the whole world. Has the whole world been eyeing South Africa? Are they not doing anything? What can the moon say or do? Right? But take that analysis very lightly. Okay, so now we come to the end of line 18. So now remember, indent, talk directly. 11 to 18, the speaker was directly talking to us. Now he's going to give another political commentary. So let's see what's going on now. So now the speaker is going to say, come on. What does come on mean? The speaker calls for action and urges listeners to actively participate in the struggle against apartheid. So come on is now speaking directly, is giving once again political commentary. Come on is also in an encouraging tone, right? Let's talk to the devil himself. So, now the devil in this context um, would refer to the apartheid government and its leaders, right? So, the speaker metaphorically suggests engaging in conversation, with the devil and representing the need to confront apartheid head on, right? Confront the oppressive forces, confront the individuals perpetuating apartheid. Right? It's about time. It's a nice ending to the poem. Right? The speaker emphasizes the urgency and necessity of taking action and initiating dialogue to address apartheid. It conveys a sense of impatience and the need for immediate change. Furthermore, the speaker believes that the end of apartheid is near. It's about time. Okay, let's look at tone. Right? Okay, let me just go to the next line. So tone. Tone, think of ringtone. A ringtone has a sound. How does the speaker sound? What feelings, emotions do you associate with what the speaker is saying? Right? So, and I just want to go back. Maybe you want to take a pause here. Guys, when you think of tone, you're thinking of feelings and emotions, right? This here is the emotion wheel, right? Move away from happy, sad, angry, bad, right? Excuse me. There are so many other emotions or so many other tones or attitudes that you can refer to. Pause this, have a look, see what you can associate in this poem. Right? As I said, let's look at the emotion of the speaker now. So, don't think also of tone as being one in isolation. Right? Think of when we speak or think of our own emotions. Right? We don't feel one thing. We don't feel in isolation. Right? So, just as we have different feelings, the speaker also has different feelings, right, in this poem. Right? So, first of all, um, in this poem, there's a conversational tone. Right? It is creating a nice atmosphere here, talking to us and letting us engage in the conversation about apartheid. But also, we know that with this absurd and silly and weird instruction that the speaker gives, right, this creates a light-hearted, humorous, satirical tone, right? Because we know how do we talk to a peach tree? How do we talk to swallows? How do we talk to the afternoon shadow? How do we talk to the moon? It's weird, it's silly, it doesn't make sense, right? Can be humorous even, right? But also, despite that silliness and absurdity, the speaker is also critical of apartheid. Right? How do we know that? He's criticizing the apartheid government. Right? We look at rubbish heap, we look at stench, we look at the injustices that people of color are facing, right? And then think of the last stanza, lines 19. Come on, let's talk to the devil himself. It's about time. Right? Now it shifts to encouraging, optimistic, hopeful, right? Relieved. Right? The end is near, the apartheid is near, the end of apartheid is near. So that's a more encouraging tone. Right? So you see there's a bit of a shift here. Okay. Right. So, okay, structure. Right, so remember what I showed you earlier on about the indent and the differences. So structure means how is the poem written? What is the format of the poem? Right. So just maybe you want to pause or come back to this. Okay, structure. The poem consists of 21 lines. There is no rhyme scheme, and this we call free verse. Remember, it's not like a sonnet where we have a set rhyme scheme where the words at the end are rhyming, or there's like every second word rhymes or something like that. Not in this case, right? This is free verse, no rhyme scheme. Okay, why? There's no set structure in this poem, right? So why is this done? Right? It's done deliberately. The speaker wants to freely express himself, right? No rhyming, free verse, free expression. Right? Make the connection there. So I'll read that again. There is no rhyme scheme, free verse. Why? This is done deliberately, as the speaker freely expresses his ideas and emotions on the apartheid government without the worry of being censored. Right? Remember, this is a protest poem against the apartheid government in South Africa. The enjambment, the flow of ideas, the run-on lines. Right? So, why does the speaker write or use enjambment? Right? Some lines flow into the next without punctuation, right? And this creates a sense of continuity, fluidity, and urgency. Flow of ideas. Think of this, think of that, do that, right? Talk to the swallows, talk to the often. So everything is moving quite fastly, right? And then sorry, I see there's a mistake here. Right? So we know that there are 9 couplets, 9 groupings of ideas, right? And in this poem, right? But the indents represent the move away from the conversation, as I explained before, um, and the speaker is giving once again political commentary, as I said. And then lastly, central idea. What is the main idea of this poem? Central idea, main idea. Summarize the poem. What is the main message that you get? What is the core meaning of this poem? So the speaker's central idea is that communication is better than violence. The speaker encourages the oppressed people in society to first exhaust all peaceful forms of communication before just merely looking at violence, right? So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope that you understand this poem much better, right? As always, give this video a thumbs up, a like, right? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to be notified when other videos are popping up. Comment at the bottom, is there anything that you learned or still don't understand? Maybe we can have a nice conversation here. And as always, don't forget to share this, right? There might be somebody out there who doesn't understand this poem and maybe they can just have a different approach, right? So thank you once again. This is part 1 in the video series of Talk to a PhD, and in the next video we'll look at some sample exam questions on what you can look at and how you can approach your exam.